Hey there! It's that time again, everybody. Thirsty Hyena and I continue our duel for first place in the Max Payne 3 New York Minute Hardcore category. I've beaten his time by about 15 seconds, and I have no doubt he's going to reclaim it, because this run didn't go so well, as you will see. But overall, I think it was very entertaining, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun watching it. And I know I'm going to have a lot of fun doing the commentary on it. Playing as Docs Max here today, because I got kind of tired of the blood splats on Max. So I've been mentioning this on and off on my practice streams and stuff, but for all of my previous world record videos, I don't think anybody has noticed, but I edited the game files for Max Payne 3 to turn off Max getting blood splats on his body and his arms and stuff, because it looks really stupid to have Max running around with like a bunch of bullet holes in his spine. So I turned that off. But recently, because of a certain mod that turns Max Payne into a character from Undertale that I live streamed for fun, I had to replace all my game files and verify my game cache or whatever. So the blood splats came back and I can't remember how to remove them. So we're playing as Docs Max today, because Docs Max has a special code that makes it so that he doesn't get blood splats on his body. If a bullet hits Docs Max in the chest or whatever, it does like a special dust cloud poof, and the bullet flies off of him. It doesn't actually give you any more damage protection or anything like that. The vest is fake, but hey, they added a cool little visual twist to it, so that's kind of neat. It's cool.
Another parking lot rattling with gunfire. Was I too late?
So this chapter went about as well as it always does. Up there in the top right corner of your screen, soon to be on the horizontal along the top in the next record for better layout. You can see that I now have a timer, because recently I have been fiddling. I've been spending my evenings fiddling with making an auto splitter plugin for Live Split for Max Payne 3, and I did it. It works perfectly fine after a lot of troubleshooting, thanks to my friends Akeon, JJ Mondo, and some other very helpful folks. The people on the Max Payne 3 modding Discord also were a big help with that. Basically, I used Cheat Engine to find where Max Payne 3 stores its gameplay timer, and I used that to make a plugin for Live Split that can time the game for you, and then I combined that with another value that controls, like, or at least it can tell which chapter you're on to make an auto splitter. So now you can just start up a run of Max Payne 3 and it will automatically time it for you. No need to hit any hotkeys or anything like that. So if you wanted to try out speedrunning Max Payne 3, this is actually a great time to do so, because well, now you've got the tools to make things as automated as they can possibly be. I'm probably going to put a download link for that in the description or the pinned comment or something like that. I don't know. So this chapter didn't go very well. So I've been trying to sprint more. I've been trying to sprint as much as I can, because sprinting is very marginally faster than just jogging. Very slightly, but it adds up. And it's not... Stuff like that happens, where I will sprint past an enemy because the enemy got gutsy for some reason, and then I'll be like, oops, now I have to turn my entire body 90 degrees and shoot him. And then I run out of bullet time and I feel like a big dumb idiot. So the auto splitter automatically pauses during cutscenes in New York Minute Hardcore. It does not do that for the other categories, but that's fine actually, because they are currently they currently take cutscenes into account in the run. So New York Minute Hardcore works 1-to-1. The timer that you see in the top right corner of your screen right now is the timer that is going to display at the end of this video. So it's basically just an easier way for me, personally, to tell how my run is going at a glance. You can see that it slows down during bullet time, and it keeps up with the game's internal timer because that's the value it's reading from. Story mode is still timed in real time, and score attack only pauses when you go back to the main menu between chapters. So basically, there is a different timing method for each category, but the auto splitter is smarter than I am, so it accounts for that without you having to do anything. Check this out. Look at this though. Bam! That's about as early as I can get that. So I am currently live streaming this on twitch.tv/cjacobssa for those of you that are watching the video version of this. So if I refer to anyone in the chat, those are the folks I'm talking to. I'm not actually running this live. I found that I don't really do well when I run games live. I don't know. I just do better when I can focus 100%. But I will try to practice more on stream. So look forward to that, I suppose. So yeah, the beginning of this chapter didn't go very well, but I recovered pretty well. However, I'm about to lose some time here, and let's see if you can figure out why.
Before they did.
Oh. Oh, I love that he just face plants when you fuck that up. Oh, I rolled a little too soon, and Max just kind of embarrassed himself, but it's fine. I did that right in the last world record video, I think. So if you do that right, Max is supposed to just like look all glitchy and just walk off the edge without dropping down or falling onto his face. But if you roll too early, if you roll too early, he will just ragdoll off the edge and land on his head, and it's real dumb. Oh, it's also very funny. Razzle in the chat says, "The fall of Max Payne." Oh, that's good. So unfortunately, as you can see, because of the fall of Max Payne, I just lost all of the time that I saved up. So now I am pretty much exactly on pace.
Where the hell was Passos?
Great. Oh, and unfortunately, it's kind of getting to the point where the first 3 or 4 chapters, there's not much you can do to make them go faster. Like, I have pretty much found the most optimal way to kill all the enemies in these chapters, and there's not much more that you can just run past, because in this chapter, you're stuck with everybody's favorite character, Passos. And Passos actually just cost me time here, because he shot that guy in the leg, that guy in the yellow shirt, and he knocked that guy over. So I couldn't shoot that guy during my second bullet time dive, which cost me a few seconds. Fucking thanks, Passos.
How's he going?
What's that, man? I'm working here.
Heads up. Here come his friends.
So I've been trying to figure out what causes me to gain bullet time, because bullet time is quite frustrating in Max Payne 3. I don't understand it, because sometimes in segments like this is the example I'm specifically thinking of. Sometimes after this cutscene, I will have almost a full bar of bullet time, despite using it to kill those 4 guys in the last room. But in this run, I have almost none, and I've been trying so hard to figure out behind the scenes how it works, right? Like, I have torn Max Payne 3 apart. I have rendered it. I have rendered it asunder in my attempts to mod this game and figure out how it ticks. And bullet time is so arcane to me. I cannot figure it out. The only things I've really figured out is that the game gives you a constant amount of bullet time when you are being shot at, right? So when you're being shot at actively by enemies, you gain bullet time. When they take cover, when they stop shooting at you and reload or whatever, you stop gaining bullet time. until they start shooting again. If you get shot, if you get hit by a bullet or a number of bullets in a row, you gain a lot of bullet time at once. So if you're not in bullet time and you get shot, you will build up the meter pretty fast, which of course is also dangerous. But I think from that I can assemble like a little strategy of just like whenever I really need bullet time, I can just run out into the open and have Max get torn to shreds. And then I can go into bullet time, just bip bop, bip bop, bip bop, and the enemies are all dead.
Whatever you say.
Very strange. Imagine working hard all week, dealing with hot breath, shitty people, and long hours, just to get to the club at the end of the week and get shot in the armpit because someone wants a blonde chick. You know, I in the later chapters of Max Payne 3, they kind of stopped putting civilians in the way, but like, I always try as hard as I can not to shoot any of the civilians because I feel bad. Like sometimes they'll have people running around like a flock of birds, trying to escape from the mobsters and also the fury of Max Payne, and I try as hard as I can to aim around them, but sometimes they get in the way. More specifically, they block bullets. So this checkpoint here went absurdly well. I'm actually really impressed with how I did here because this little room is a pain in the ass sometimes. But look, because I was getting shot at that whole time, I came away with a lot of bullet time, which is actually not a good thing. In this segment, I want to get rid of all of my bullet time because you want to start with a fresh meter for the sniper segment, which I will explain in a moment.
Hey, look out! You get another sniper on you! So let's go!
You wouldn't want to ruin Max Payne's impeccable moral standing. Well, listen, the one thing Max Payne does not do is he does not shoot innocent civilians, okay? That's the one thing that you can say that Max Payne takes the moral high ground on, okay? And I don't want to ruin that for him. He tries so hard.
How's it looking, Max?
Alright, so you don't want to have any bullet time here.
Jesus, take them out, Max!
Because if you have any bullet time, the game will just automatically put you in bullet time for that first guy you shoot, and it will consume the rest of the meter, and then you won't gain any for killing those next two guys. And if you don't have any bullet time, it just puts you in real time, and then you get enough bullet time for all three of them, which allows me to do this. I can save time here by going into bullet time and killing these two dudes, one of whom I almost just shot in the penis, and I'm so sorry to that man.
There's three more in front of me, Max!
Depends on who's playing him. When I was a kid, I would light that club up. I mean, I guess that's true. Player agency. Max Payne 3 does not shoot unarmed civilians unless you decide that it is in his will to do so. But I would say that's more on you than on Max Payne. That guy tried to fuck me. I don't know if you noticed, but if you are at all familiar with this game, that guy was coming down the stairs twice as fast as he normally does for some reason. That guy will hesitate for a second and then fucking blow Passos away with his shotgun. And for some reason, he was getting ready to do that, and I don't know why. You just like shooting men in Pinos. I do. Like, listen, I've mentioned this a couple of times now in my various world record videos, but shooting enemies in the penis, shooting them right in the... Like, pulling a RoboCop is the easiest way to defeat enemies later on in this game. Because if you don't have... If you're not dual wielding, right, it takes two shots. It takes two pulls of the trigger to kill an enemy by shooting them in the head later on in this game. Because you need one for the helmet and then another to shoot them in the head. If you're dual wielding, it only takes one button press because Max fires two shots. One hits the helmet and then the next hits the head in one trigger press. But if you don't have dual-wielded weapons, it is so much easier to just fire an entire magazine of bullets into a man's penis. I'm sorry, that's just the best way. They take so much damage when you shoot them in the deck. So here's another strategy that I have figured out that allows me to do stuff like that. Max just ricocheting that bullet all around the room like it's Naked Gun or something. If you have dual-wielded weapons and you start just rapid firing them before a scripted bullet time segment like that, Max will automatically fire off the second shot as soon as the segment begins. So it's dual-wielded weapons. You click to fire, Max fires the first shot as you're walking into the segment trigger area. The trigger happens, the cutscene happens, and then as soon as you're back in control of Max, he will fire the second shot, which allows you to get away with a lot of sneaky bullshit. But it only works if you have dual weapons, because he fires 2 shots with 1 trigger pull. The way you say penis is so hilarious, I can't stop laughing. You know what? Okay, it's funny you mention that. I feel like people undervalue the word penis as a humor injection tool in a joke. So, a lot of people, myself included, are dirty potty mouths, and when they're talking about wangs, they will insert the word dick or cock or something like that. But if you say penis, it's funny because people don't expect it, especially from someone like me who curses all the goddamn time. You subvert people's expectations by using a word that is equally as humorous, but also somewhat unexpected. Also, I was talking about penises, so I didn't get a chance to mention it there. But what just happened there, is one of the ways that this game tried to fuck me out of this world record. Because I shot at that man and he didn't die, and it gave me a bullet cam and he didn't die.
It was hard seeing
like that just happens sometimes. You will shoot someone and get a bullet cam, and the game will be like, "Congrats, you did it."
At least that's what.
And then the game will just continue. So all of the time that I saved in Chapter 3 was lost in Part 1 of Chapter 4.
Away from what's left of your life.
This is going to happen for the entire run, so settle in because we've got another full hour of this.
Down and let myself burn right there.
Hey look, the stream is talking about penises again. Who would have thought? Yeah, I know. So this goes really bad. This is probably one of the worst chapters in this run. First and foremost, I shot too high and didn't hit the exploding tank again. This marks like the 3rd record video in a row that I have missed that fucking tank by shooting the grill instead. So now I'm behind on painkillers and I have to do the rest of this chapter without them. And at this point I was like, welp, this isn't going to be a record. I'm gonna be done now. I'll try, but I won't get very far. One full hour of testicular manslaughter, only at C. Jacobs S.A., says Laser Maniac. And Laser Maniac is correct.
Up for a weekend project. These were the wrecks you crossed the road to avoid.
I do have a new strategy for this room coming up here that saves a little bit of time, though, thankfully. I would have been way in the red if it weren't for my new strategy for this room. On the upper floor, you see those, wooden, the wooden, splinters and stuff that are sticking out? Well, on the upper floor of this building, you can shoot those out and shoot through the wall. And I was wondering if you could do it to that wall that's on the staircase. And it turns out that you can. So now I don't have to wait for that guy to come down. I can just shoot him in the head and he will die. Like what happens in video games. And thanks to a strategic role, I am able to use JJ Mondo's strat of entering this cutscene early to save even more time. So everybody say thank you to JJ Mondo, because thanks to him, I didn't come out of this chapter in the red, I think. I think I come out of this chapter with... maybe in the green, perhaps. I don't know. Here, this guy. I lose a lot of time because of this guy. He doesn't come around the corner. He's just standing there. He's not even taking cover. What a prick. Fuck you.
I'm fine with the leather.
Gonna make sure this guy has a closed casket funeral.
Show the blood so much.
I don't know why. I don't know why that man was such a coward, but he cost me a lot of time.
How's this look?
Again, for this entire run, that is how things are going to be. I'm going to go back and forth between, like, oh man, I just saved a lot of time in one chapter, and oh man, I just lost a lot of time in the next chapter. I'm pretty sure that I'm cursed at this point. See, look at that. I'm 0.4 seconds ahead of world record pace. A whole 0.4 seconds. Don't spend it all in one place. How rude. That man didn't come out so that he could get riddled with bullets.
A bit out of character for a guy who's only comfortable with a bottle of whiskey or a gun. In his
I don't know why that man was such a coward. He was only facing Max Payne. I talked with JJ Mondo about this on one of his recent streams. Like, Max Payne is terrifying. Just, like, conceptually. Like, I don't know why any of these people, like, maybe it's these people's first day on the job or something, and they don't know who Max Payne is. Because, like, if I personally knew of Max Payne, and I knew that Max Payne was coming for me, I would call in sick to work. These people must be getting paid a lot in order to be willing to face down Max Payne. His fucking name is Max Payne. His name is Max Payne, and you're still gonna try and shoot him? I shot that guy like 4 times in the back, and he didn't even care. He's just like, oh, this is a minor inconvenience. I'll never be able to walk again, but at least Max Payne can't shoot me. Look, CJ, doing poorly at parts means there is room for improvement. That's true. Counting all of the time that I have lost so far in this run, I've lost a good 15, 20 seconds almost so far. So that's 15, 20 seconds-ish that I can make up in future chapters. Like, because of certain things, some of which are beyond my control, like that bullet cam weirdness in the last chapter, there is definitely room for improvement in these early segments. They get paid in sunglasses and sneakers. Well, you know what? That makes it worth it then. If I got some cool treads from facing down Max Payne, it's worth it.
I opened the door to the next circle of this low-rent hell.
So this was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this, but I took Thirsty Hyena's advice, and I decided to be a little bit gutsier. Thirsty Hyena, in his world record video, the previous world record, he was very ballsy with his gameplay, presumably because, you know, if you lose a run of Max Payne 3 on New York Minute Hardcore, you have essentially just lost an hour and a half of your real life, but it's fine because the game is still fun to play anyway. It's just fun to practice it and just play it in general. But I took his advice on playing a little bit gutsier and picking up less painkillers, going out of my way to pick up less. And it was a bad idea because, as you just saw there, I immediately took almost all of my health and damage from one shotgun shot. So, no offense, Thirsty Hyena, but I feel like I would have an easier time if I was a little bit more careful. But that's just how this game goes sometimes. Enemies with shotguns, as we proceed further into this, are going to become my fucking nemesis. I cannot stand enemies with shotguns in this video game. This video gaming experience.
Malaria tablets might...
They're so accurate, and they have the ability to take out like your entire health bar in one shot. It's just... it's maximum amounts of pain. Also, I took some damage there because I shot that crate instead of shooting that man. So the game is very inconsistent about what physics objects you can and can't shoot through. It's fine though. I don't expect them to add data to every crate, barrel, and box saying like, you can shoot through this. You can't shoot through this. You can shoot through this box, but not this box. Like I don't expect there to be penetratable object data. It's fine. I wonder what Max's middle name is. I think he has one. I think. Let me look that up, because I think Max Payne might actually have a middle name. I know his dad's name is Jack, I think his dad's name is Jack Payne. Let's look it up on the Max Payne wiki while I shoot all these men in slow motion. No, not Wikipedia. Yeah, Max Payne Wikia. There he is. No, he doesn't have a middle name. His mother's name was Helen Payne. His father's name was Jack Payne. But Max himself, Max doesn't have a middle name. Yeah, let's just pretend that his middle name is his father's name. So his name is Max Jack Payne. Payne to the max. As usual, I come out of this chapter that you can't lose any time on, having lost time. This chapter that always goes the same speed no matter what, somehow consistently ends up losing me time in my runs. I don't know how. I blame Passos. Here's something I learned though, in between runs. The guy that throws the Molotovs there, that really brave man who throws Molotovs on Max Payne from the safety of his boat, that's on a timer. It's not like at specific points in this checkpoint. Like he just does that on a slowly repeating timer. And so, because I shot that first Molotov so early, he took me by surprise there and threw an extra one. So that's weird. Is Max shortened, or is that on his ID?
Give me a second.
I imagine that his name is probably not like Maximilian Payne, although that would be pretty great if his name was like. But what if his name? What if like it's one of those weird nicknames where like you shorten the name to a different name, like how people call like people named James Jim or something. Like what if his name is actually Matthew and people just call him Max? There was a kid in my elementary school who had that. Everybody called him Matt, but he kept asking people to call him Max. And I believe the reason for that was because of the children's film Max Keeble's Big Move. I believe he thought that character was cool. He was like, my name's similar. People sometimes say Max instead of Matt. That's a true story, by the way. I've spoken about the weird names of kids in my elementary school before, and I will continue to do so because that's, I guess I don't blame him, but also I spent some time at his house and his parents also called him Max, so I don't know if he requested they do that or if they did that already. Maybe my friend was secretly Max Payne. I don't know. Didn't Max Keeble's Big Move star Frankie Muniz, TV's Malcolm in the Middle? Maybe. I don't remember. Let's look up Max Keeble's Big Move while we play through this boring fucking chapter. This chapter is not boring. This chapter is fun. I really enjoy this chapter. I think it's cool that after all of the attempting to stay under the radar in the last chapter, you just blow up 10,000 boats in this one. It's fun. No, Max Keeble's Big Move stars Alex D. Linz? I don't know who that is, but it had Josh Peck in it. Tell me about Alex D. Linz. Home Alone 3. What happened to Macaulay Culkin? Did he grow up too fast?
They got an armada out here.
Alright, when I say this chapter is boring, what I mean is that this chapter is annoying to get through in a speedrun because, again, it is the same every time. And this checkpoint right here can lose you time through no fault of your own, and it's very annoying. That right there is why. Because there is a seemingly random amount of time between killing the last few enemies and Max being like, "Giddy up, Passos! Go faster! Yeehaw!" I don't know why. The game just waits for a few seconds. But sometimes it waits for a few seconds more than the last time, and I don't know why. I don't know what makes it happen still. But hey, look! I killed everybody in this segment. So now we get to just sit here and chill. Home Alone 3 had Scarlett Johansson in it as a goofy spy villain, no less. Well, I know what I'm watching after this. Thank God that chapter's over. But hey, look, I lost 0.2 seconds. So almost exactly on par that time. But this chapter, as usual for my speedruns of this game, this chapter is one of the worst in the entire run. This chapter goes really bad, and I think I come out of this like 10 seconds in the red if I'm remembering right. I have a new strategy for this room coming up here, this hell room. Not this one, but the next one. I used it in the last world record video, but I'll explain again. Now, I try as hard as I can to take a two-handed gun if that guy at the end of the room drops one, because the two-handed guns in this game can shoot through glass without having to break it first. Like, they break the glass and then the bullet doesn't just randomly stop existing, like with one-handed guns. So a two-handed gun makes this next room so much easier, because you can shoot through the particle board and the glass and stuff. But, some of the enemies may or may not be huge cowards, so I lose a lot of time here because they just take cover and I forget where they are. This dude over here, the bald guy. This bald guy that's always over here in this corner. I lose time because of him. You know that thing in a cartoon where two people are going around like they're being chased around a corner or a pole or something, and they're going in the same direction, like so they never catch up with each other, and then one person stops and the other one keeps running and they run into their back, and it's a comedic funny moment. Well, that's essentially what happened in this checkpoint. Except without the part about being funny, and replaced funny with extremely frustrating. So I thought this was the last guy, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just start running. And it turned out it was the last guy, but sometimes the game spawns a guy on the right, and I got paranoid. So I was like, oh no, I have to be careful. But as it turns out, I didn't have to be careful, and I was just being stupid.
There it went. He was tucked up safe. Now I needed to make it to the lobby.
But yeah, in future runs, I'm probably going to run for the guys on the edges of the room first, like JJ Mondo does. JJ Mondo's strategy is to just make a circle around the edge of the room. And I feel like that is a much better strategy than bum rushing them like I do. Because it ends up costing me time when they all take cover like jerks. You know, I never understood why the Crusher Prado are wearing body armor everywhere except for their heads. Some of these guys aren't even wearing hats. All these guys aren't even wearing hats, and they're mostly bald, too. They don't even have hair to block the bullets. Like, that guy's like, fully outfitted. Maybe that guy has the only helmet that the Crusher Prado own. Like, the Ufe guys, they're riot police, so, okay, they all have helmets. They have the budget for that. But the Crusher Prado are paramilitaries, and I guess paramilitary groups, they can't afford helmets. That one dude is wearing all of their helmets at the same time. That would make sense. It would make sense that, like, You know, that's why he takes like 10 headshots to kill, because you have to shoot him through each layer of helmet like it's a jawbreaker, one of those gobstoppers that has 1,000 layers.
Look at me. I've been contracted to protect.
He won't hit my head. Who is he, Max Payne?
The other was sitting at his desk.
I'm also not going to take cover or anything like that. I'm just going to stand out in the open and shoot at him. It's not like he's a time wizard.
Shit. If I survived this, it'd be a victory for gross incompetence.
That's about how I felt about this run, Max. So for those of you that are in the chat watching this right now, is the audio and video keeping up? Because I'm playing this in Windows Media Player, because VLC has this weird audio volume bug for me where it just plays at 100,000% volume no matter what. And Windows Media Player sometimes desyncs if you play a really long video. So if it does start to desynchronize, let me know, and I will probably try to do something about it. I don't know, I'm recording this commentary live, so it's going to be really weird to edit around my commentary when I'm assembling the full video.
Despite his manners, I'd done him a favor.
Look at you shit-talking yourself when you know damn well this is a world record. Listen, I'm allowed to address my own faults. Listen, just because I currently am the best in the world at playing Max Payne 3 does not necessarily mean that I am immune to having faults. You know, everybody has stuff that goes wrong, even people who are the best. There's a lot of room for improvement here. I'm 2 seconds ahead of the record pace right now. Why aren't you using VLC? Because VLC Player has this weird bug for me where videos will buffer, and when they stop buffering, then it will suddenly jump to like 200% volume, and I'll have to set it back down to 100%. That has happened with every installation of VLC Media Player on every computer I've ever had over a span of several years. I think I'm just cursed. The traffic cone does not like me. But that's also most of the reason I'm not using VLC for playing this back, is because it buffers, and I can't have it buffer when I'm doing live commentary, because I can't edit this video afterwards. I'm not allowed to do that, because you're not allowed to edit speedrun submission videos. So all I can do is just tack the commentary on, and if it buffers, then it'll get really desynchronized, and it'll be a nightmare. Yeah, I really need to re-download Media Player Classic. Alright, here comes the Hell chapter. This chapter's fucked up. I hate this chapter. This chapter is a nightmare. So thankfully, I've finally sort of figured out a strategy for this bar that allows me to get off scot-free, or mostly. Mostly it's trying to get out of the bar with my one painkiller, because you get a free heal up here later on in this chapter. So I just gotta I just have to survive until then, and surviving until then is the hard part. A lot of my runs are lost right here, because this part is just bullshit. It's ridiculous. But it's fine, because they probably don't expect you to go through it at, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times as fast as the game intends. You know, a normal human being would be taking cover and doing bullet time dives and stuff. But in this continuity, Max Payne is a time wizard and not a normal human being. Have you tried not getting hit? I have tried that. I've extensively tried that, and unfortunately that is not a thing in this game. In Max Payne, there is no such thing as not getting hit. But I'm doing kind of well here, so I decide to skip that painkiller over there on the right, which makes up for the time that I lost in the last couple chapters. So I save a second or two at the risk of making this part go way wrong. And
I thought I'd found Fabiana, but
I'm not going to say that it goes way wrong, but
a bunch of young punks with guns killing time the only way they
this chapter's weird. It's very weird. Max Payne no damage run when. Someone has done one of those. There is a YouTube channel that I have mentioned in the past called In Love, I think. If you search for Max Payne 3 no damage run, you'll find it. And they have done individual no damage runs of every chapter in this video game. and they are spliced between checkpoints and stuff. It's edited together from multiple different playthroughs, but you can, if you get lucky enough, get through segments of this game without taking any hits. Like, I can consistently get through the first chapter of the game, and maybe even the second chapter, without taking any damage at all. But, for stuff like this, where they throw 1,000 enemies at you, good fucking luck. Now, I saved a lot of time here in this checkpoint, because that segment with the being trapped in the room went probably the fastest it's ever gone for me. So that's good. I was very happy about that. The door to that room gets busted down by the guy with the shotgun after you kill the first wave of guys. There's a guy with a green hat that comes out from across the way, and if you shoot the guy with the green hat, the guy will kick down the door next time you look at it. So you just gotta watch out for the green hat guy, because that means that the enemies have stopped spawning their first wave. And now that I know to look out for that, I can save a lot of time in that segment.
I'd have felt worse taking someone's
You could have
medication
saved even
for
more
the
time if you jumped over the railing from a box. I don't know if you can survive that. Can you actually survive jumping down to the ground floor? Like, I don't know if you can avoid going in that room. But maybe you can. And if you can, boy, do I feel like an idiot. So several months back, probably more than that now actually, there was a glitch that I encountered where I accidentally somehow skipped over the trigger that spawns the enemies. And none of the enemies in this area spawned, and I couldn't proceed to the end of the game, or the end of the chapter rather, because there's a door that won't open later on. I think I have figured out what causes that bug to happen. Max Payne 3, unsurprisingly, does not like when you move too fast. So going into the bullet cam there by killing that guy with the fireworks, I think will prevent that bug from happening, because like the game goes into slow motion and the game's like, okay, you're sliding down there in slow motion instead of real time. Now I have time to do my business. But behind the scenes. So I'm gonna shoot that guy from now on. You can jump down to the ground in that segment apparently. And you do not have to jump down to the floor. At first, it's necessary to jump down to the roof. So after you jump off the chain, after you get off the chain, you dive over the railing onto the roof of that room, maybe? That bug is because you skipped the cutscene too early using the cutscene skip mod? No, there's no cutscene there. That's unless you mean the cutscene where Max is opening the big heavy door. I mean, you can skip that cutscene instantly anyway in the normal game, but that's kind of far away from where that enemy trigger is. So it's, I assume it's just because you go too fast, and the game's like, well, you went past the trigger, idiot. Anyway, on my last world record run, this chapter didn't go very well, but in this video, it went extremely well. So I'm coming out of this chapter, I don't know, maybe like 20 seconds ahead. So, all of the previous chapters didn't matter. You might as well have just clicked on this video right now and started watching it most of the way through. Because, yeah, we're doing quite well now. I was talking about the cutscene where he opens the gate. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe you're right. I'll have to test that out.
Down the hill, and I had to catch up to him.
You might be right. I'll test it, and we'll see. And I mean, hey, you might very well be right. And speaking of the cutscene skip mod, the moderator for speedrun.com for the Max Payne 3 leaderboards has reversed his decision that he made some time ago, that the cutscene skip mod was not allowed. Now, when I spoke to him about this the first time, my arguing position was that the cutscene skip mod doesn't actually matter because the gameplay timer pauses during cutscenes in New York Minute Hardcore. And he said that wasn't a valid enough reason. But for some reason, in the interim months, he has gone back on that opinion. And now he feels like it's fine because it doesn't take up any gameplay time. I don't know why he went back on this decision. I don't know what made him change his mind, but the cutscene skip mod is now allowed on the leaderboards for speedrun.com, but only for New York Minute Hardcore, because the timer continues to count up in cutscenes for the other members. So hey, thank fucking God for that. No more sitting around for 3.5 minutes just watching Max walk around Brazil.
Something for the cold.
Be like, man, I'm really out of my element here. How many times can I reinforce that I'm really out of my element? You buttered him up with the auto splitter. I think that might actually be what it is, because now I have actual existing proof. Like, now I can point at the auto splitter and be like, look, see, it totally does pause during cutscenes. So yeah, again, not sure why he went back on that, but I'm fine with it. I'm glad he was amicable. I'm glad he was amicable about it.
And the goons. I meant to follow.
And since making such a decision, he has played Max Payne 3 for himself. I mentioned the last time I brought this up that he hadn't actually played Max Payne 3, but now he has done so. And so, I continue to adopt a new strategy for this upcoming segment, the sniper segment up here. It's not going to save me time anymore, because I also used the strategy on the last record I set, but thanks to Nomad Jack, JJ Mondo, AK on, pretty much everybody but me, actually, because I just never bothered to try it. In this upcoming segment with the sniper, you can just sprint around to the right side, instead of having to slowly roll up the left side and take cover. I think if you sprint up the left side, you still get killed, because he's got like a perfect angle on you, but if you sprint up the right side, he can't actually hit you, because you're going too fast. Like, you're moving like perfectly laterally to him that he doesn't aim fast enough to catch up with you. So, this
is the only
saves an obscene amount of time. It's kind of crazy how much time this saves, actually,
That's anyone's guess.
compared to how I was doing it. And boy, do I feel stupid. See, I talked about this on a stream of the Talos Principle, or after the stream the other day. See, I have this problem, and I'm sure a number of people also have this problem, where when I have found a solution that works for a problem, let's think about this in the context of a puzzle game, right? When there is a solution in a puzzle game that I have decided does not work, I will dismiss it as being the incorrect solution, so I don't try it again. But the reason I say this in reference to the Talos Principle is because I can and frequently am wrong about that. I can be and frequently am wrong about that. Like, for example, there was a puzzle where the solution was not entirely obvious, but I tried something and it didn't work. But what I tried was the correct solution. I tried the correct solution, but I did it the wrong way. And because of that, I wrote it off as not being the solution, when actually I just needed to try it a different way. And that's what happened with the sniper segment. I was so convinced that I had found the best way to do it that I didn't experiment with anything else. And that is something that I'm going to have to grow accustomed to, because after this run, there's not a whole lot further down the timer can go here. Like, I feel like about 45 minutes is probably like an optimistic best for possible time for Max Payne 3. Like, it doesn't get much better than this at this point. How did the moderator become a moderator of a game he doesn't play? He also doesn't run the game, so I don't know. I'm really not sure. I was not around when the Max Payne 3 speedrun leaderboard was made. I guess it's better. I guess it's better to have someone who doesn't run the game be on the moderating team, because then they're impartial, right? Like, I don't run the game, so I have no stake in this or whatever. But it is kind of frustrating to say, like, this is objectively better, and just have them say, I haven't played the game, but no, it's not. Like, what? So at this point, I was getting a little nervous because I'm about 30-ish seconds ahead of world record pace, which is kind of crazy, actually, how one chapter can put you so damn far ahead.
Let alone Giovanna and Marcello were narrowing with every
But hey, look,
passing
now I have definitive proof that the timer pauses in this room, so I'm free to just waltz on over and get this painkiller from this lady. I stole this lady's heart medication. Max Payne is a hero. But yeah, my hands get a little shaky when I get nervous, so Max Payne 3 is probably a bad game for me to speedrun, because, like, this game requires some fine motor skills that I do not have the capacity for. When you start going this fast. Like, imagine a child, right? Imagine a child trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That's me playing Max Payne 3 at high speed. I'm trying real hard to jam that square peg into the round hole, and I just don't understand why it's not working. But it's a poorly designed child's toy though. So like the square probably would fit in the round hole if you, like, tilted it just right. You know, like the edges of the rectangle, like, touch the edges of the circle, and it's, like, so close, but it's, like, not quite there. And I'm stretching the metaphor a bit here, but I think you get what I'm saying. I'm just not that good under pressure, which is why I suck when I live stream this game.
I couldn't make much sense of what I was seeing, but I had the feeling it wasn't
Stress
that strange
hormones
for anyone
cause
else.
increased muscle tension and heightened reflexes, often making your hands shake. What I need is some pentazimine.
There to make a couple
I
of
need
arrests.
a
They were
PSG1,
busting them out by the
and I need
dozen.
some pentazimine,
But
and
who was
then I
to
can
cast
defeat
judgment
Sniper
on
Wolf.
Proper police procedure and justifiable use of force.
This is another chapter that sucks, because there's not a whole lot you can do to make it go faster. Like, I don't really have a strategy for this chapter. Like, my strategy for this chapter consists of run forward and shoot all the people in my way. And do it with a pistol, because Max, for some reason, discards his weapon at some point during the checkpoints. I'm so bad at fine motor movements, C. Jacobs says seconds after shooting a helicopter full of police in the head. Well, I mean, relatively speaking, okay? God, you should watch me try to play Max Payne 3 on a controller. It's embarrassing.
Seemed like as good a place as any to lie low.
It's embarrassing how bad I am at playing games like this with a controller. Like, I don't know how people played Max Payne 3 on consoles back in the day. Like, I had the original Max Payne on the PlayStation 2. That was where I first learned of Max Payne's existence. And I was young then, but I didn't know about, like, the advantages of controlling with mouse and keyboard for fine aiming. And so I thought, playing the game on controllers, I was like, oh, well, this video game is just supposed to be impossibly difficult. But as it turns out, I was just shit at controlling it with the thumbsticks. As soon as I eventually played the game on the personal computer, it got a lot easier all of a sudden, and I was like, huh.
Oh my God, no!
Yeah, I imagine the lock-on is a pretty big help. So this game has multiple different, it basically has tiers of lock-on, where there's free aim, which is basically mouse control, soft lock, which drags the cursor slower when you're hovering over enemies and stuff. Like, Max will aim in the general direction of enemies when you hit the aim button, and then there's hard lock, which will straight up, like, snap Max's aim onto targets.
Oh my god. Max. What's going on?
I adopted a new strategy for this checkpoint. Instead of running around the bus, I just shoot all the guys in front of the bus. You know, it saves me time having to do a loop around, provided that all of the enemies stick their heads out, which sometimes they do not, at which point I have to blow up the bus, which takes extra time and sucks. But yeah, this game was probably...
No, there's no way
This game was probably meant to be played with free aim. Keyboard and mouse and all that stuff. But it does, I imagine that with the soft lock on, I imagine that it probably is pretty playable with controllers. It's just not playable for me with controllers. Like, I'm not saying the game controls bad. I'm saying that I am bad at controlling the game with controllers. Just because of the whole fine motor skills thing. Like, me plus controller equals tragedy, essentially. This checkpoint is annoying, because depending on how far you go in this room, the enemies either spawn over there or behind me, and I did not know how far forward into the room I went. I don't know where the trigger is that changes the spawn points. So I was like, where's the last guy? And it turns out that he was just too busy putting his armor on. He was getting dressed. Lucky shot there. That was real lucky. I think that bullet might have ricocheted off of something. Like Max just pulled a sweet trick shot there.
I'm going to try something.
So as you can probably see by my splits at this point, there is a lot of time that can be saved in the early chapters, and now there is not so much time that can be saved in the later chapters. So after this run, my speed running is probably going to be focused more around perfecting the early chapters, because there's a lot that can go wrong in them that, like, costs you minor amounts of time, but it adds up, and it's quite frustrating.
Why are they doing this, Max? This is so fucked up.
Something that also might be frustrating to you, if we look at the timer here, we've been recording this for about an hour, 57 minutes, and there have been 27 minutes of gameplay. This is it is a gap that slowly grows wider as the speedrun goes on. Now that I have the auto splitter, you can see just how little gameplay compared to cutscene there really is in the speedrun. Now, in normal gameplay, if you're moving at the pace of a sane human being that's playing video games to have fun, it's a lot more even of a balance. It's about half and half, actually, between gameplay and cutscene. But the speedrun is starting to get even more weighted towards cutscenes than it already was. Oh, and it's very funny. Found out that she can die in that walking cutscene from a grenade. Yes, so that's something that hasn't happened to me in a run yet, but I'm sure it will at some point. Grenades in this game cannot just kill you. Grenades can also kill NPCs that happen to be in the area. Like, I have had the IT guy in the office chapter, I've had him die because a grenade landed near him. Because I was in the general area, and they threw a grenade at me, and they missed me, but he was in the blast radius, so it killed him. And, again, a little bit frustrating. Yeah, JJ Mondo is right. We found this out on JJ Mondo's last stream. The good thing about this game having a lot of cutscenes is that you have appropriate pee time. If you gotta pee, this game will give you a good enough amount of time to pee and then come back. It's just that you have to pick the right cutscene for pee time. Like that cutscene where Max is walking around Brazil at night. That's a really long cutscene. It's about 3 minutes. You could just go and let it ride and then come back. But some cutscenes you can skip them pretty soon, pretty soon after they start. So they're not good P cutscenes. See, that's the next strategy, right? For optimal commentating is figuring out the good P strategy. Or you could just go to the bathroom before recording commentary. That's also an option.
Just drive! Hold on!
So this part goes weird. I don't really know how to describe how this goes, because I wouldn't say it goes well, but I also wouldn't say it goes poorly. It goes poor well. Welper. It goes well poor. I don't know. Like, I shoot all the enemies in the head. That's something that's good. So for some reason, when he's behind this bus, Max has utterly ridiculous recoil with this gun. Like, recoil that he does not have if he's just standing up. But he's stuck behind cover here. You can't stand up. You can't move and you can't stand up in this part. But what costs me a little bit of time in this part is that the enemy spawns are semi-random, whether they come from the left side or the right side. And yeah, they're taking their sweet time, so I just kind of had to hang out for a bit. And the last guy over here, he got stuck behind a palm tree. Also, I almost lost the run there. If an enemy throws a grenade in the bus successfully, it just explodes instantly and you lose. So that cost me a good amount of time, and that's kind of annoying, because I was almost about to come out of that one really ahead. And yeah, here we go. It's time for the cutscene you've all been waiting for. Panamax. Max Panama. I don't remember how well this goes. I think I blocked this one out of my mind. Like this chapter just causes me like harrowing amounts of stress, so I have blocked it out of my mind. But it's not starting out very well, I can say that. Because this fucking guy in the freezer... That guy in the freezer is, again, a huge coward. And instead of facing his destiny to be shot by Max Payne, he decided he wanted to live. Usually, he just runs out at you, but he didn't that time. And so I lost a lot of time in this first checkpoint. But I think I make it up by doing super duper good for the rest of the chapter, I think. I don't remember.
The fire was sucking oxygen from the room. I didn't care if I got shot.
There's a new strategy for this room that I came up with. Sorta. I guess it's a strategy, I don't know. I don't know if it counts as a strategy. But, you can avoid Max getting knocked back by the explosion that starts off this little part here under the boat if you just walk to the right. So, like, you can control Max during bullet cams, and you can sort of kind of steer him if you can see him when he's on the screen. Like, sometimes you're just running blind, but if Max is on the screen during the bullet cam, you can, like, wiggle your movement keys and find out which key you need to press to move him in a certain direction. So, like, during the bullet cam, before the explosion, you can just walk Max behind one of the boat's engines, and when it blows up, he won't get knocked over. Which saves a good amount of time, because the timer still ticks when he gets knocked over by explosions, which is so stupid. It's so dumb. But it's fine. A Max, a plan, a painkiller, Panama. I challenge somebody. I challenge somebody to come up with a Max Payne themed palindrome for Panama. You know, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama. Like, come up with one of those, but for Max Payne. It's time to hydrate, everybody. It's been an hour, and you're on a boat. You're surrounded by water. You need to stay hydrated. So take a sippy, everybody. I know I will. This part goes bad, but at least I lived. I lost some time because I bullet time dove there, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. I lost a lot of time, but I didn't die in the Panama chapter of Max Payne 3, and that is all I care about. I don't care about anything other than that. So, strategy for this fucking checkpoint. This checkpoint is a nightmare. This little segment here where there's like 20 enemies up here on top of this boat and over there on the side is a nightmare. Unless you do what I'm about to do and blow up the truck, which will kill everybody over there in one shot. So I picked up a second weapon, which allows you to just fucking flood the gas tank of this truck with bullets. And there you go, everybody over there is dead. So from now on, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna not shoot any of the guys while I'm running up to the top of the boat, and then I'm just gonna blow up the truck, which will kill everybody in one fell swoop. Mass pain. It causes mass pain.
I spotted Passos and Marcelo. If I'd known back...
Or ass pain, because a lot of those guys are standing in front of the truck, and they're gonna get truck shrapnel in their butts. Or something like that. But yeah, the rest of this chapter goes alright. This part is just this part. If you strafe enough, the enemies can't shoot you from their high position there. This is another one of those parts where it's just really difficult because the enemies have cover and the high ground and you do not. So like, again, this is one of the hardest chapters, but I feel like I'm starting to be able to compensate for that, right? Like, that's what a lot of this is. Like, Max Payne 3 is a very difficult video game, and I'm sure I've mentioned multiple times in the past that Max Payne 3 does not like when you play it this quickly. And so a lot of the strategies that I have are basically coping techniques, that they're emotional coping techniques that help with this game being incredibly difficult. Like that guy there that I just got a bullet cam off of. That guy, if you shoot that guy too fast, you can shoot him as many times in the head as you damn well please. He will not die. And I'm glad that the timer is frozen while I'm standing here in front of this booth, because that happened. Max wouldn't jump over it for some reason. And I think it was because there was a gun on the ground, so he was trying to grab it, but he couldn't. But yeah, this chapter's fucked up. But now we have the Deagle, the one Deag, so now we can just blast our way through the rest of this. Guess this is an okay time to talk about locational damage, because I don't think I've talked about that before. Essentially, damage in Max Payne 3 works on a scale of what percentage of the enemy's Max Payne health gets taken away. Sorry, their max health. Their maximum health. Their maximum health. Shooting an enemy in the head, for example, does 100% of their maximum health, which will kill them instantly. But shooting an enemy in the body only does about 50% if they're unarmored, and it does zippity zero if they have body armor. And then limb shots do slightly less damage than body shots. So, target priority goes heads, limbs, and then bodies, because enemies in these later chapters wear body armor, which completely nullifies damage for them, but it doesn't for you, because fucking video games. And so that's why nut shots are so helpful later on in the game, because none of these enemies are wearing armor on their crotch, and the crotch counts as part of the body area. So by shooting enemies in the dick, shooting them in their penis, as we talked about an hour ago, you can get damage to the body without having to deal with the nullification from the armor. Because otherwise you would have to shoot them in the limbs, and they take even less damage in the limbs than in the body. So if you can't get an angle on someone's head, just fire into their nutsack, just like a laser beam to their nuts, and it will also take them out approximately as effectively.
Caricature of a better man.
I really wonder why they even pretend you can be stealthy here and the docks.
Deal with the favela was getting
I don't
dirtier
know.
by the
I guess it's like a...
Those bastards were clearly.
I don't know. I guess it's more of a story thing. But yeah, like... Even like your first couple of shots aren't stealthy. Because like, I shot those guys in the back and killed them instantly at the start of this chapter. And even then, immediately, the next guys in the next room were like, hey, what the fuck were those silenced gunshots we just heard? Like they make a point about having Max Payne try to be stealthy. And maybe that's the point. That Max Payne tries to be stealthy and fails because he's not a very stealthy man. I don't know. So this part, you know what? This goes okay. This chapter goes all right, aside from like some weirdness at the beginning.
This was hell on earth.
Like I've been trying to get better at the final chapters of this game, and well, I don't get much chance to practice them because most of my runs end in Panama or similar, or the first favela chapter. But now that I'm getting more runs that are getting closer to the end of the game, I've been able to narrow down strategies that make it, I don't know, slightly more possible.
What have you been doing here?
It's easy for you. Listen, I know people. They will kill you.
It's true. As Max Payne himself will admit, he's a dumb move guy.
Doing?
I have a lot of money. Look.
You can't skip this cutscene with the cutscene skip mod, or else the game will crash, so we get to just sit here watching it.
Please.
Sit here watching Max and Serrano clown on this loser.
Espera. Eu posso explicar tudo. Tudinho.
I think the game would be too easy, perhaps, if they allowed you to actually do stealth, so they nixed it. Maybe that's why. Only Rockstar knows the truth about Max Payne 3's non-stealth mechanics, non-existent stealth.
For all Serrano owed me, he'd paid.
One
enough.
problem with the skin that you probably have noticed by now is that you're meant to be in the rain in the chapter where you have this skin for Max, so he looks like he's always wet. And I don't think that's necessarily a problem with the skin. I think Max just always exudes a layer of slime.
I hadn't slept in days. I needed something to keep me going.
I feel like opiates probably wouldn't keep you going if you hadn't slept in days. I feel like if you took opiates while you hadn't slept in days, you would probably just fall asleep. I don't know, but maybe like opiates. Maybe when Max takes painkillers, like his body has grown so attuned to them that they just act like an injection of caffeine. I don't know. Yeah, Max just has these natural secretions. He's like a slug. Like he's just always kind of like damp. And, like, he just always smells like whiskey and cigarettes. Alright, this is bullshit. What the fuck is this? What is that? I shot him in the head. I shot that man in the head 4 times. There were 4. Like, that man's head was opened like a splattered watermelon. And he was still alive. What? That cost me like 6 or 7 seconds. Just sitting there shooting that man. Like, that guy should be the protagonist of this game. Because if Max gets shot in the head, he goes down instantly. But this guy, that random sniper dude, was the best sniper that the Crash of Prado ever hired.
I had to do it now.
Maybe that guy just had like a medical disorder. Like he had an abnormally thick skull or something. I don't know. But like... But I splattered that dude's head like a rotten pumpkin, and he kept trying to shoot me. I don't get it. You forget Max Payne 2. Well, Max has been shot in the head before, and he got better, sure. But like, 4 in a row in a span of like a couple seconds? There he goes doing the arm thing again. He's just gonna always do that now. Thanks, Max. Listen, okay. In this game, if you get shot in the head, it does like fucking 4 times as much damage as a shot anywhere else. Which is bullshit. But even considering that, right? Like, enemies in this game die in 1 headshot from any source of damage, right? Like, you shoot someone in the head with any gun, and they will die in this game, which is something I really like about it. But that man, that man just had the raw determination inside. He really wanted to get paid and kill Max Payne. And it gave him the strength to carry on through being fucking shot in the head until his brain was turned into a smoothie. I got really lucky there because I didn't have any bullet time. I was really hoping I would hit that guy on the first shot, and I did. So, thank goodness. And yeah, 100% ass and JJ Mondo in the chat are correct. You don't actually have to shoot all of those enemies in order to continue the set piece. You only have to shoot the two guys with the laser sight sniper rifles. So, in this chapter, I think it's this run. It might have been the one I did before this one that wasn't a record, because I died, I think. But
it sounded like all hell was
this chapter made me very nervous. Like, right from the get-go, things in this chapter are very off. Because these enemies are already facing me! Like, what? I don't know what happened. Those enemies are usually turned around. But instead, they were already aggroed on me and already knew I was there. And so they just took a chunk out of me. What? And with this upcoming checkpoint, I thought this was over. I was suddenly very frustrated because I was like, I came all this way. I am like 35 seconds ahead of the world record right now. And this is how it ends? Because the game decided to just randomly have some enemies bug out on me and just know of my existence before they're supposed to? I thought it was over. And also I fuck up in this next checkpoint too, because like, I was freaking out, man. I was like, oh god, no, not again, not back to the grind.
That kid had the right idea. There was no point bouncing.
Maybe it was because you were sprinting. I always sprint in this segment. I always do. Like, I did everything the same way I always do there. And it was different this time. That is something that's quite frustrating about Max Payne 3, is the concept of, I did everything the same way I always do it, and it always has worked before, but this time it didn't. Like right there. My crosshair was very slightly too high. Like it was like a couple of pixels too high, and so I missed that first shot. Guy gets off a lucky shot here and takes out most of my health, and I have almost no painkillers now, and I'm very, very nervous. Oh. I try not to get frustrated, right? Because this is a long run. This speed run is probably about... That guy fired at me after he died! Okay.
Another futile crusade for
I was just about to say, I try not to get frustrated, right? Because this is like a 2-hour speed run. This is an investment of time that I'm willing to make, because I love Max Payne 3. I love this game, I love speed running this game, I love playing this game, despite some bullshit, like enemies being able to damage you after they're dead. But man, when stuff starts going south in ways that are almost irreparable, it's kind of frustrating in a way. It's hard. It's hard not to get mad at it. In the same way as you would get frustrated by, like, I don't know, your lawn needs mowing, and like you pull out the lawnmower and like you try to start it up, and the blade doesn't work, and you have to repair your lawnmower. Like, something that already was going to take a certain amount of time, something that you didn't want to do, like mowing the lawn, or maybe something you did want to do if you are a big fan of mowing your lawn for some reason. Something that already was a time investment that was a necessary evil, because Max Payne 3, for example, is a long game, is now going to take you so much more time potentially. It's hard not to get frustrated at that. To have something come out of nowhere, like, say, I don't know, enemies randomly being aggroed on you when they're not supposed to be. and potentially ruin that last hour or so of your life. It's just a bummer. But thankfully I got lucky. I also got very lucky with the next shot there. Like, usually if you miss your first attempt at the next shot on that guy, you don't get another try, and you have to do it the hard way. But I got lucky, and it bounced off him in that bullet time dive. And I have almost no ammo, and I only have one painkiller, and here, I don't even know what shot me. I have no idea. But this is about as doomed as a run gets in this game. Cause this upcoming segment here is one of the hardest to not get shot in. There are so many enemies that have shotguns or they throw tear gas rounds or something so that you can't see, but they can still see you just fine because they're enemies in a video game, and it's nerve-wracking. It's a little nerve-wracking. But it's alright. See, that's the benefit of hindsight, right? We now know that the struggling and frustration was worth it, because I ended up coming out of this with a world record. But this chapter goes probably the worst it ever has gone that I have survived. Like right here. I waste some time here because I'm looking for another enemy, because I didn't get a bullet cam. But that guy that I shot outside the window, he didn't die until after all of the other enemies were dead. So I didn't get a bullet cam because he was the last guy. So I wasted a couple of seconds there. And that was my fault. That wasn't the game's fault. But it's just an indicator of one of the many, many reasons that this chapter is one where I have a lot of room for improvement in future runs. I probably lost like 25 seconds-ish that I could have saved in this chapter. Thankfully, though, I managed to pick up this gun, and this gun is one of the best ones to have because it has a 40-round magazine, which is really good. And I don't mean to talk about Max Payne 3 as if it is the most important thing in our universe that exists, right? There are more important aspects of life than speedrunning Max Payne 3. But you know, just as someone becomes invested in any hobby, if you have a son and you're interested in making model ships in bottles, and your son drops one of your model ships in a bottle and breaks it, you feel the pain of all of the time that you spent, you know? It just feels natural to be upset at that to me. The same as any investment in time. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, you know? Maybe nobody thinks I'm a weirdo for being invested in speedrunning in Max Payne 3. Or, alternatively, maybe someone thinks I'm the weirdest person alive. In which case, whatever. I am pretty weird. Again, out of bullet time, running out of ammo for my guns that really matter, no painkillers. I thought I was done. I thought it was over. But shooting that man in his B zone, really gave me the determination to survive, I think. Even though this checkpoint goes really bad also. This chapter, like, you want a textbook example of a chapter that goes really poorly, you look at this chapter of Max Payne 3. If nobody was weird, shit would get boring really fast. Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, it's not like I mind being weird. I imagine that most people probably don't speedrun Max Payne 3. I would say that the vast majority of people who exist on Earth don't speedrun Max Payne 3. But us people who do, we suffer for our entertainment, and for your entertainment. And I hope you enjoy it, because I certainly enjoy it. This is a blast. This is fun. I feel like I picked the right game for me to speedrun. I'm just saying that, you know, it's scary sometimes is all. This is something I like about video games, right? Is that they can give you a lot of entertainment because you really feel connected to the action. I feel like me being frustrated when something fucks up in a speedrun like that something potentially beyond my control is frustrating, but also a good thing that I'm frustrated. Because it means that I'm invested, that I care, you know? And the fact that video games have the ability to help you become emotionally invested and connected to them, it's cool. It's something I think is pretty neat about it. So, strategy from before with this segment, this is what I'm going to be doing from now on, because it's so much easier to just stand under the lip where he can't shoot you than to bullet time dive back and forth. It's so much easier. You'd think he would, like, lean over the railing, or, like, pick up a grenade or something. But no, Bachmeier has absolutely no strategy. He has no preparation for if Max Payne should do that. So yeah, I lost a lot of time in that one. And a lot of time I potentially could have saved. So, Chapter 13, in future runs, it's going to go much better. If I save time and set another world record someday for this game, that chapter, I think, is where most of the time saves are going to come from. But yeah, this, I would not want to speedrun another game. That's what I'll say. Like, for all the complaining that I did in the last chapter about how this game, like, is causing my hair to fall out, it's not that bad. I mean, like, it's, like, when I say that it's stressful, frustrating, and all those things, I mean in the relative sense, you know? There are a lot of things that are more frustrating in this life. Like, I'm gonna be a homeowner soon, or whatever. Like, I'm gonna be a homeowner soon, so I'm gonna have to deal with the stress of being a homeowner and learning how that whole shit works. You know? Like, Max Payne 3 speedrunning is small potatoes compared to a lot of the real-life issues that people face that they are stressed out by. But in the relative sense, I feel like this is one of the more stressful games you can speedrun, because it's a long game with a lot of waiting between set pieces.
These were Becker's guys. Him and Victor had a private.
But it's
airport
okay,
to go with their private
because I'm glad I have you, and I'm also glad that you have me to get us through this together. Because Max Payne 3 is a great game, and I think it's a lot of fun to watch being played fast. And I hope you enjoy watching as much as I enjoy playing.
Opened at the other end of the departure lounge.
See, the shame about doing that part faster than before is that you don't get to hear the full song anymore. The faster I do that part, the less of the song you get to hear. But I think I still have the ability to time it pretty well. Annoyingly, in Max Payne 3, I've complained about this since the very beginning, but Max will sometimes pull out his pistols whenever you enter like a cutscene zone, just so that they can time the animation properly for him like doing stuff in the cutscene. I feel like I could have put a little bit more effort into that and just made 2 animations for certain cutscenes, but whatever, it's fine. Except it's not fine, because what happened after that cutscene is Max pulled out his gun that was out of ammo. So I had a deagle with no bullets in it to start off that set piece after the terminal part, and that was That almost got me killed because it took me a minute to realize it. I was like, wait a minute, why are bullets not coming from my gun when I click the mouse button to fire bullets at my enemies? Oh, it's because of Max Payne 3. So the game almost fucked me there, but it's fine. I figured it out fast enough. I'm a smart cookie. If a Max Payne 4 does ever come out, I probably will speedrun it, or at least I'll stream it, because, I mean, if it's anything like this game, it'll be a hell of a lot of fun. Like, if they take this game's gameplay style and apply it to another game similar to Max Payne, then fuck it. I'll enjoy it just by virtue of it being like this game. But I do hope that they don't make a Max Payne 4. They don't really need to make another one. If they do, however, there is that idea I floated, which I will talk about after I ace the fuck out of this checkpoint. I have figured out through rigorous testing. I have nailed down a strategy for this part. So there is one guy for every window on the opposite train. So each of these windows has one guy crouched behind it. And if you run to where the painkillers are, like I did at the beginning of this set piece, you have a perfect angle to shoot them one after the other from right to left. And the amount of time that saves is nuts compared to sticking to where you start off the part.
Max Payne Express.
Anyway, the idea I had for a Max Payne 4 was a way they could introduce a new character or a new protagonist to have you not continue Max Payne's story, because Max Payne's story, they concluded it pretty well in this game. I would say that if they made a Max Payne 4 and had a new guy, my idea is that you are part of a mob gang or whatever, and you are sent to hunt down the old Max Payne, just for, you know, his past transgressions against the mafia or whatever. Like you're a fresh face, you're a baby face, a newbie, inexperienced in the ways of the dirty mafia life, and you're sent to hunt down Max Payne. But as you play the game, as you play through, you learn Max's story and what has happened to him and what he's been through, and your character takes sympathy on Max. And in the end, they team up with Max, presumably in some way, to take down the same mob that they had just been hired on by, and in some way they feel they have made a difference and changed their ways of thinking or some shit like that. And in the process, you jump through the air in slow motion and kill a lot of people in true Max Payne style. So there's my idea for a Max Payne 4. If they were to ever make one, but I don't think they're going to.
Let these assholes take turns trying to kill me. That's my style, and it's too late in the day to hope for change.
It's time to finish this. I'm glad they give you a full bullet time bar here. It's nice of them to, because earlier in the segment where you're crouched behind the cover in the bus and the guy throws a grenade, shooting that guy's grenade saps away all of your bullet time like it's a bullet time vampire or something. But this set piece starts you off with full bullet time, which allows me to just kind of murk these guys. Honestly, this last fight is it's not really any big deal once you know where all of the enemies are going to spawn.
How many more of your clowns are you gonna send to their deaths?
Oh my god, I love that line so fucking much. I'm so glad I got that line. Because you gotta wonder at this point, how many more clowns is he gonna send to their deaths?
Here I was, about to execute this poor bastard like some dime store angel of death, and I realized they were correct. I wouldn't know right from wrong if one of them was
Oh, deep breaths, everybody. We did it.
Sister.
We actually did it. It's kind of unbelievable, actually. I personally, after some attempts, had deemed Thirsty Hyena's time potentially too hard to beat. But I got lucky in this round. Through luck and some skill, I'm willing to give some credit to myself here. Pulled it off, and I'm very happy I did, because it means that there is even further room for improvement, especially now that we have the auto splitter to watch over my run and judge me accordingly. It is a fair god, the auto splitter timer, a fair and just creator. But I feel like the auto splitter is going to make it a lot easier to judge how well my runs are going from now on, which I'm going to need to do because there's room for improvement in several areas. But in between those areas, it's just a matter of executing what I already know. And that's harder than it seems.
I've been one of them too.
Luck, skill, and many painkillers.
Let's get it over with.
That's what it is. Luck and practice bravado. I set a new world record in Max Payne 3. And so, your new record and mine is 46 minutes and 14 seconds as I wig the hell out here on the congratulations screen, because boy was I excited. That's about a 15-second lead. So I wish Thirsty Hyena luck in reclaiming the record. I think it's going to be fun to see how the competition increases from here.